Very sad news tonight. After surviving a deadly mass shooting in Florida just last month, 25-year-old Ryan Aleman tragically lost his life in a car accident this morning on State Highway 44. As Aleman's family is mourning his loss, our Marissa Cummings has more on the young man in tonight's top story.
The name Ryan Aleman may sound familiar to you. The Robstown resident interviewed with 3 News less than a month ago after surviving the shooting in Jacksonville, Florida.
I was panicking so bad. I was actually praying too, I pray that he doesn't come in, and if he does come in, if I could just get one last call to my family and tell him that I love him and stuff.
While Aleman did get to be with his family after that tragic shooting, no one could have imagined he'd lose his life in a car accident just a few weeks later. According to DPS, Aleman was not wearing a seatbelt when the car accident took place and was ejected from the vehicle. Sergeant Nathan Brandley with DPS says at this point, they're unsure what caused the crash.
You have the rain, the weather conditions, the early morning, drive. It's late, late early in the morning, dark outside. You don't know if an animal may have, crossed his path. He tried to steer around it.
The investigation is still ongoing. Now, there is no telling if a seatbelt would have saved Aleman's life, but DPS says wearing a seatbelt can increase your survival rate by 50%. Marissa Cummings, 3 News.